Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living Our Values, our monthly Zoom to talk about living our values every day, which is a radical act of love. LOVE, living our values every day. It's a radical act of love. So I am here today by myself. Sheila is I think auditioning or involved in a game show. So she wasn't able to attend. So she's living her value of grow and flourish and having fun. And she'll join us next month again. But today we're having an interesting conversation about what to do when our values conflict. Our world is increasingly more complicated and nuanced, and I thought this was a good conversation to have. I'd like to start these sessions off with talking about what core values are and how we define them here in our space and how we use them. So let's start there. Core values are a single word or short phrase that connects you to your authentic and most genuine self. They're the bridge between your innermost self and then the outside world. So it connects your heart to what's happening all around you and how you relate to the world around you. Your values become your inner compass and really direct where you want to go and then how you're going to get there. What are some examples of core values? Those of us who've done the workshop will know your own set, but in general, there's many different values out in the world. Everything from valuing interdependence, community, integrity, responsibility, beauty, celebrating, autonomy, authenticity. The list really goes on and on and on. What we're talking about here is a set of core values. What are the really essential values that connect you to yourself? Best practices show that there are between 5 to 7 core values that we operate from. And we believe in finding out what they are so that we can live more consciously and authentically directed, which leads to more fulfillment and peace of mind and happiness in general. So the core values, when we have less than 5, we're usually missing something. And if we have more than 7, it means we're usually a little bit more scattered. So 5 to 7 is kind of that sweet spot, and that's what we aim to. We can hone the list if sometimes there are too many, or look to see where we can fill in. And that's part of the process we do in our Discover Your Core Values workshops and Create Your Inner Compass workshops. So our core values are this set, and we use it as a reliable tool when we're making decisions, when we're out in the world. And oftentimes, even with our set of 5 to 7, they're going to conflict. It just is part of life because there's many different things unexpected. Our day-to-day lives are busy, and we conflict with people out in the world, but we also conflict within ourselves when we have to do something. I was thinking about during the time in early 2020 when everything was happening and beginning with COVID. And all of a sudden I was using more single-use plastic than I have ever used before. And it went completely against my values of sustainability and reverence for nature. And I didn't know what to do about that. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about, those moments. How do we adjust for that? How do we reckon that? How do we navigate it in any sense? And how do we use our values to course correct if we're off course and use it to make the decisions in the first place so that we're not just doing it impulsively and unconsciously? So that's kind of the subject matter of today. There's many ways values conflict. I'm sure we've all had lots of examples. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And just a reminder that this is a space where we can come to ask questions, discuss our challenges, share and celebrate our successes, and just have a conversation about our values and what they mean to us and how to live them. Because I believe, and those of us in our community have experienced, that the more we talk about it, the more they get activated, and the more our lives then become more full and direct and bright and shiny. And we can live in that sweet spot of authentic fulfillment and happiness. So, okay, what are some ways when it comes up to a conflict like that? I think the first thing is getting really clear about what our set of values are. So if you're walking around and going, God, this doesn't feel right, but I do have to do this, it seems like it conflicts with my values. It's important to know what your values are. Clarity is the first thing to make sure. Make sure you are writing down what your 5 to 7 values are, so that you're really looking at that set. And then you can identify, well, which ones are at conflict here? So I could say, when I was talking about the example of the single-use plastic and all the masks and everything at the beginning of COVID, it was the two for me that came up were sustainability, for sure, because the reverence for nature. And then what was the other one? Sometimes it was fear, but that's not a value. It was, I think, integrity, when I really looked at it, because I was looking out for my own health and being in alignment with my health, and looking out responsibility for my children and our household, and listening to what the authorities were saying in a way that felt right to me. So it was a kind of so it seemed like it was sustainability versus integrity. So getting clear about which are the two values that are up against each other. Another way to talk about this is, again, sustainability comes up a lot for me, right? Because our world is so fast paced and values convenience a lot. So I often find I want to do something like order from Amazon because it's more convenient. I want to have it now, but convenience is not a value. So getting sustainability is. So I had to get crystal clear, like, okay, convenience is not my value. I like it very much. It helps my anxiety when I want to get something right away, but that's not a value. So it can feel like my values are conflicting, but it's not. So getting clear, what are we really talking about here? Are we really talking about conflicting values, or are we talking about something else like managing anxiety? Not a conflicting value. So that's the clarity there. And you do that by stating what your values are and seeing which ones are applying to this particular decision or situation. And then you can take the appropriate action, because if it's dealing with my anxiety, I can choose a different tool to address that. How do I handle the discomfort of waiting for something? Do I need to do more meditating? Do I need to make a call and get some other kind of help to handle the distress tolerance, really is what that is, of not having something right away? But that's different than conflicting values. So that's where that gets really important. And that leads to kind of the second question is what is the action about? Why are you doing this action? Why do I have to have that right away? So there's a tool I like to use. It comes through the designers at Toyota, and it's called the 5 Whys. So if you're really struggling with something, it's a really great place to start, because you just keep asking why for 5 times on something. So you get to what the root of it is when you do that. So if I want to buy, I have to have this, whatever it is, immediately, this book, this thing off of Amazon. Why do I have to have it? Because I need it for a project. Do I have to have it tomorrow? Why do I need it? Because I need it for this project. Why for this project? Because if I don't have it, I won't have the information I need to execute it. And why do you have to execute it? And you just keep going and asking why each time, and you get to what the root of it is. And oftentimes the truth is, I don't have to have it immediately. And I can find alternate ways to doing that, whether that's picking it up at a store, finding it digitally. There are other ways, rather than having to click buy for an immediate satisfaction of getting it tomorrow. And if I get to the why, that I do really need it tomorrow, then I'm really clear about the reasoning that I'm doing it. So understanding the why we're doing something is really important, because most of the time we make decisions habitually, automatically, impulsively, and distractedly. When we use the lens of our values, we're taking a different approach. It's a more conscious approach where we become more present. We go from automatic to present, from unconscious to conscious. And then it becomes less of a conflict and more of understanding and coming from a different place of presence. So we move out of that kind of, we reframe it entirely. So the 5 whys can be a really helpful tool. So why are we doing it? Is the second one. So it's clarity and then why. And then the third tool to use when you feel like your values are at conflict is, once you have the clarity, you know what your 5 to 7 are, and you understand why you need to take this action or make this decision or whatever it is you're feeling there's conflict about, either it's in a relationship or out in the world. Then the third thing is you look and you use your set as a reliable tool to reflect back at you. So oftentimes when we have our values, there are usually 1 or 2 values that are the ones we go to the most. There are kind of like the shiny ones that are the ones that are, we go, that we rely on most, usually first and foremost. The reason it's so helpful to have a set of 5 to 7 is because it fills our life out. And oftentimes when we feel like there's a conflict between 2 values, when we look at it more broadly and we look across the spectrum of our 5 to 7, we'll begin to see a new perspective and see it in a different way. So oftentimes, some of my values, my go-to values, as you already have heard, tend to be integrity and sustainability. Those tend to be the ones that I rely on first, and then connection comes next. The other values I have are super helpful for me to think about it in a different way. So what could that look like? So one of my values is collaboration. If I need, it's a way of working together. It's a different approach to life. It's like, oh, I look at this like a team. Maybe somebody has that book already that I want to order on Amazon. Maybe I can look and see where I could find it used. Maybe there's someone who can lend it to me. But if I take a collaborative approach to life, I don't have to do the automatic right away. So collaboration, oh, that gave me another idea to think about this. Creativity is another one of my values. How can I be creative about this? Flourish. Connection, I had said, gratitude and grace. So my values can help give me other ideas that I wouldn't have thought of when it feels like they're completely going against each other. And this can work in a relationship too. If you feel like there's conflicting values, broaden out what you think are conflicting and see where you can align some of your other values. It will soften the conflict and soften the extremes. So you go from black and white to more nuanced, and you're not locking in on 2 conflicting ideas or 2 conflicting values, because we wrestle with this all the time. The same thing, one of the things that people talk about is work-life balance. That's another one that often gets conflicting values. So now, I personally don't even believe it's possible to have work-life balance. I think you can do a harmonious living and choose a life that has more harmony in it. But if I'm at work, I am not on the soccer field watching my daughter play soccer when she played soccer. I can't be in 2 places at the same exact time. I missed the talent show where she designed her own dress because I was in Palo Alto for a business meeting. That happens. It doesn't mean I'm out of balance. It just means there's disappointment and loss at different times on each end of the spectrum of that. But we can live more harmoniously, and we can look at our values to help us get clear about that and make the decisions to go or not go. And when are we, maybe we're too far onto the work side, or we're too far making the family important and we're needing to do more on the career side. So it's a bit of a dance. And when we get clear about our values, we can really begin to see, are we living in alignment with them? Or are we out of alignment with them? So it's a different lens on which to make these values, or make our lives flow and work and feel more balanced or in harmony in that way. So you get clear about what values you're talking about here, because maybe you're not at conflict really in a value. It's just a way to see it that needs to change. You really understand the why of what you're doing. And then you use your set of values to come up with other solutions that you may not have thought of before. And it all starts with knowing who you are, what matters to you, and that is done through your set of core values. So I would now like to open it up and have a conversation. I see Terry is here, and you want to check in and say hello and ask questions or reflect on what I had just talked about?
Yeah, I really appreciate this search you've been on with this values project, and it's just so important. And I see how when values are in conflict, if you take that minute or 10 or 15 to look at your top 5, and you have sustainability at the top with a couple of others, integrity, and then you look at why you use Amazon. And this is a very similar experience I had during the pandemic. I didn't want to go to the grocery store. I had walked into a grocery store and nobody was wearing a mask. This was the first month. And I was wearing a mask and I was like, oh, I walked right out. I couldn't be there. I think my health has become right up in the top of the list with this pandemic. I haven't caught COVID, and boy, is it getting close. I mean, some of my best friends now, it's like buzzing. Even the woman I went to Sweden with, 3 days after she got back, she had COVID. So that means somewhere along the way, I think it has a gestation period of 4 or 5 days, doesn't it?
I think
Yeah.
so.
So during our travels, she caught it. So she was contagious when I was with her. And I mean, anyway, I didn't catch it. Yeah. Poof.
By the grace of God. Yeah.
And where was I going with that? About sustainability. I was ordering food and having it delivered at the door until one day I saw it's coming from San Francisco. It's flying here. And that doesn't meet my sustainability standard. So I called and I said, you know, we have a lot of food in LA. I don't understand why you have to fly the boxes from San Francisco. And she explained how they've been able to make better deals with farmers there than they've been able to here. And I just couldn't accept that. So I canceled.
Yeah.
That's what you reminded me of, was that day that I saw the tag on it from the airport.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing to realize too. And you know, and that company too made a decision, right? Because they can make a greater profit margin by negotiating with farmers in San Francisco, even though it makes more sense environmentally to use farmers locally, because we look at, you know, you have to round out what the price tag is, right? So it makes more cost effectiveness for the bottom line. This is where they talk about that triple bottom line, right? The idea of caring for people and the planet as much as we care for the financial bottom line. Because if you look, you were doing a balance sheet that included the planet.
Yeah.
They were not. And we've operated our world very much along those lines for a while now. And I think my hope is that it'll tip a bit as well. It doesn't mean that you can't make decisions that are, you have to, I mean, sustainability for me, and this is where I talk about the definition, right? Sustainability for me is also financial sustainability. So it doesn't mean you take a loss. At the same time, you know, how much profit margin do you really need if you're harming the earth in the process, if you're contributing to the global climate crisis. So it's all of those decisions. So getting clear, like, is my value, so what did you end up doing? What was your solution at that time?
Yeah, my solution was to cancel the order.
And then how did you get your food then?
I wore a mask and went to the store.
Well, the mask mandate might have been put in place too, so other
Yeah, I
people
think by
probably,
then it was.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm just gonna answer a call by saying I can't come to the phone.
sure,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one example. I think another example has been that I gave up my car.
Mm,
And part of that is sustainability, and the other part is health. I was accused of running a red light. I didn't think so, but you know, there is a point at which you sort of have to throw your hands up and say, okay. And I gave up my car, and it enters into the sustainability equation by not having a car. I borrowed my sister's car this week because she's not going anywhere. She just had surgery. And I see how easy it is to have a car. But I also see that a woman, I think she was speeding, but she ran a red light and killed 5 people, and 7 people were injured. And if I ran a red light and my car was destroyed and I came very close to being permanently off the planet, I am grateful it was only me and my car and no one else. And giving up my car has had to do with that idea of, you know, it's convenient. I've done it all my life. It makes me independent. All that stuff I've had to struggle with, this value of it's not just me on the road. There's other people walking in front of me. There's red lights everywhere. You have to have your attention on what you're doing in a car 100% of the time. And I know I was sort of in crises at the time. My mom had died less than a month before. And people say when your mom or your dad dies, you're kind of in a state for about 3 months. And I didn't think about that. And I was kind of in a hurry to help a friend. And so I feel like that moment in my attention span has to do with my health and other people's survival who are in the streets.
right.
And it's a hard choice. It's every day. It's a hard choice to hold on to.
It is. It's a really, what is that value, the caring for other people? Is it a sense of oneness? Do you have a word or phrase that you use to describe that value of caring for others? Or is that
Um,
it?
so far, it's been health, my health and the health of others.
Yeah, right. Which is
Uh,
why the definition is so important, because you know that when you say health, you're talking about not only your own health, but the health of others, health of the world, health of, you know, that it's your definition, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but the idea, because in the process of the Discover Your Core Values workshops, we define our values. So we're
yeah,
crystal clear about what they mean to us. Someone else may have a different definition of what health is for them.
yeah. And I find it connected to sustainability. Excuse excuse me. The fan is, I guess, bringing in pollen or something because the
Dust, I'm
house is
sure. Yeah, my fans are always so dusty.
yeah. Um, so yeah, the thing about health and sustainability are so hand in hand.
For sure. Yeah, health of the planet is probably part of that.
Yeah, if we don't have that, we don't have our own health.
Correct. Right.
They have to be together.
They absolutely do. Yeah, oftentimes our values work together. And that's again the nuances and the focus. The definitions help us focus that. So sustainability is part of health. But when you talk about health, you're really talking about healthiness within yourself and healthiness with others too, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
And probably like healthy in terms of being of well-being. Is that part of it too? Well-being and doing and thriving,
yeah, yeah. That's
full
a
of
great
life.
word.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's a,
we can add to our definitions as we learn more. I remember in my value of sustainability, when I started a few years ago, started hearing about regeneration and regenerative thinking and circular thinking, I added that to my definition of my value of sustainability. And I questioned, oh, do I want to change my value of sustainability to regenerative? But I didn't. Sustainability still worked for me and the way I define it, because I consider it in many different aspects, financial, emotional, as well as a reverence for nature and the world. But regeneration became a part of what sustainability looked like. So it really helps me direct my thinking in that way. And it's now part of my definition of sustainability. So if you heard something today, you can certainly add it to your own definition
yeah,
of health.
definitely.
And the more we define our values, like we're talking about here, the easier to see what's truly at conflict. So, because oftentimes, as I said, it's actually not our two values. It's usually a value and then our thought about something, or it's a marketing campaign that says we have to have it now. We've been influenced by culture, or
Oh, yeah.
or
I
someone.
have, I have spent some time feeling addicted to Facebook. A very hard admission to make, but it's true. And it's my only way to stay in touch with certain friends. We don't call each other. We don't really see each other because we're far apart. And we can share photographs, and it's nice. And then all of a sudden, I started thinking about this value of my own personal growth. And is this helping? And I decided that it wasn't. And that I could be in touch with just those people on Facebook and limit the amount of time I spend to half an hour. And in that way, then I have this commitment to personal growth. I can find like this conversation. I can find time for this and the joining of Toastmasters and a couple of other things I'm adding to my daily list of things that are about personal growth and being involved with the things that are part of that personal growth. Talking to a therapist. And now I have on my page of ideas to be involved with this business incubator downtown. I think it's called Lacey. I'm not sure.
I've been there.
Yeah. Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Is it interesting?
It is interesting. I'm happy to talk with you about it. Well, first I wanted to say the Facebook question is a really big one. I've often, I don't think you're alone with that. I hear a lot of people wrestling it, myself included, in terms of conflicting values, right? And so for me, that's the values that actually come up against each other for Facebook for me is connection and integrity, because I don't see Facebook as a brand that has a lot of integrity.
Right.
And at the same time, I see it valuable in terms of connecting with people I don't get to talk to regularly, old friends, people to hear about the work that I'm doing so that they can benefit from it. I've had some good opportunities that have come from very organic, beautiful connections. So both are true. And so that's a fantastic example of values at conflict. And I think what you came up with is using another value as an answer, right? So personal growth became your answer to that. Oh, okay, I'm going to actually focus on a third value to help me right size my Facebook experience. So that's how that third step I talked about is using your full set of values to help do that. You're like, oh, I'm just going to use my time here and limit my time here, not get rid of it, but limit it and put my focus on personal growth. So when you, that's how, like, that's what I meant when I said you expand out. Your values, having 5 to 7 helps you expand out a bit.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful way to do that. It's also why I created the core values connection, our community group, and not a Facebook group on Mighty Networks, because that's really about connecting and not being in the Facebook world. There's no
Right.
ads, there's no anything from anybody else. We have our own community. There's no algorithms. You get to choose what you want to engage with, and it's really a place to connect so that we can share in this experience of living our values. And because that does come up for me, and it's hard, and finding that right balance for that. But you really talked about that beautifully of how to use another value to answer the conflict.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yes, entirely. It's really a great clarity around a company and the owner of the company, which I have said to myself, and I've even put it on Facebook. I said to all these people who I'm connected to, who otherwise I can't be, I've said, let's go someplace else. There's
Right.
other places to go. And then all of a sudden you see Facebook buy that one too.
Yeah, right. That's true too. Yeah. So I think what I see with Mighty Networks is it's a place of communities around specific things. So anyone can create a community. You could create a specific community. It's another platform, but I'm creating it around sharing an experience around living in our values.
Yeah.
So all of those things kind of come together where we can be together in a space to do that. That's more instead of groups. It's not so much instead of the feed, but you can create a community about anything that you're sharing.
Yeah.
An experience around. So the Facebook, that's a good one to bring up, I think. And then in terms of Lacey, I haven't been there in a few years, but I had met some of the early executives at a conference around because of sustainability and fashion and the work I do in that realm. And it seemed like a place where they were really incubating businesses and really trying to do things that are innovative. I haven't really tapped into what's going on now, but what were you going to do there?
I thought of volunteering to do something.
Yeah.
I know that I have volunteers, and I've thought of, because gardens are another part of my values, and I already sent in a volunteer application to the, what is it named? There's a garden in Beverly Hills that is so beautiful. I can't remember the name, but I sent it in 10 days ago and I haven't gotten a reply. So that's a little strange. But
yeah. People, there are a lot of these nonprofits are all volunteer. So I think their response times are probably low. I don't know if the Beverly Hills one is or is not, but what I do remember about Go Visit, we did a tour of Lacey, and they have amazing labs where they're really testing new products and creating new inventions and using everything for 3D printers and making the right, like physically testing things and making things in the space.
And I thought they were also coming up with innovative sustainability things.
Yeah, that's what their labs were for, like products that are sustainable. And I do believe they have a partnership with Department of Water and Power. So there's some innovations there. They incubate companies, who are doing different things. So now that was a few years ago. I don't know if their mission has shifted or changed. As we know, COVID has changed a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's a good place to go. And I wanted to ask you, is when you said gardens is one of your values, what is Is it that word, or is it fall into another word?
No, actually, I found another word as I was doing some homework for being a volunteer at the library to teach reading. Naturalistic. It's a person who likes to be in gardens and nature and plants and understands, can name plants. And so I would say I have a naturalistic value.
Right. So would that go under sustainability for you, or is it a different one?
I think it's actually different because I don't actually think some of the gardens that I really, really like and would like to model my garden after are that sustainable.
Right. Okay.
They're not all native plants, is I think what I mean. A
Right.
lot of gardeners I know these days are only doing sustainable, I mean, not sustainable, but native plants. And um, I, uh, I'm not 100% there.
It sounds like, tell me if this is accurate, that it's more about the beauty and
Yeah,
the 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 flourishing or the beauty or the aesthetics aspect of being in nature.
yeah, I think that's it.
So
Um,
that's why it feels different to you than sustainability.
yeah,
You might want to make it a phrase or write the definition out to get clear.
okay.
Because I was tracking what you've said your values are, just so to help if you want to hear what I have as a list and see if it matches what you have.
Yeah.
I see sustainability, health, personal growth, and naturalistic.
Oh, right. It kind of is a different form of word.
But that's okay. It could be naturalist, or
Naturalist,
yeah, or it could be natural beauty,
nature.
nature. Yeah, it could be. That's why a phrase can sometimes come in and help define it. Because natural beauty could be also, or something like if you decide to use something like that, like naturalness or natural beauty, could be related to health too. It could be how you think of your own beauty inside out. It can be gardens. It can expand. So for my value of connection, I think of connection is not that's for me where my health value lies, because it's connecting to
Mm,
my body. It's connecting to my soul when I meditate. It's connecting to friends when I have good conversation. It's connecting to my kids. So connection covers all of that. It also connects belonging and oneness, because when I connect, I'm plugged in with everyone. So for me, connection touches all of that, even though it has different applications.
yeah,
So that's where that definition comes in, becomes really important for, because I know someone else, it might look different too. And they may have a different value that works for them. Whereas
right.
for me, that's the one I go to for those.
And some people might use the same words, but the tentacles that it attaches to are different.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So that's why stating your 5 to 7 and then the definitions for each of them really gives you a strong foundation so that you can use it as a reliable tool.
yeah.
So are there any ones that we were missing? I don't know if you have
Uh,
I don't have your list in front of you, but
I don't have my list in front of me, but I love music.
mm,
Uh, I love to have music on and around me, and I have a piano and I don't know how to play it, but it seems to have a draw. I just feel like um, I just need to invite someone over who knows how to play to make it feel like it's, in a worthy place. It's a beautiful
right,
piano and it should be played.
right. Well, I imagine music is in one of your values. I don't know. Next time, if you want, bring your list and we can do a clarity session around it.
Okay.
And I just ended up like putting mine on my phone in my notes so that I can remember them, or posting them on a wall so I could see them
Mm,
and check them and go, oh, this word isn't really working for me. I'm going to switch it. Oh, this one is,
mm. Oh, great. Yeah.
you know.
I will
So
have to hunt down that paper. Our
yeah,
house,
hunt down
I
the
have,
paper because it'll be interesting to see if they're still resonating, which
yeah,
ones shifted around a little bit, which ones are solidified even further, making
yeah,
sure music is in there, and
yeah.
how, what is the word to use to describe music for you, you know? It could
I've
be,
discovered that our house goes through so many changes all the time that um, I'm constantly at a loss for where things get put. Uh,
you do have a lot of changes, I know.
I mean, there was the bedroom next to this I was using as an office, and somebody arrived, and this bedroom was not ready. And so I moved all my stuff out, and I didn't bring it in here. And ugh, and we painted downstairs, and we moved everything out of the bathroom. I mean, I went on a trip and I put Chrissy's key to her trailer someplace, and now I can't find it. It's just awful. It's so I think one of my values in the future is going to have to be having my own office, and nobody can change it, and putting a sign up about
Yes.
what's here and what's there.
If I recall correctly, I believe you did have one of your values was around organization, clarity. You did have that order. I can't remember what word you chose, but I definitely remember having the conversation around that with you. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I definitely think it is one of your values.
yeah. And
And that's why
um
I put it on my phone, because it is easy to lose the paperwork. So it's good to have,
oh yeah, put it on the phone. Put
you do use
it,
your notes, and
uh,
I just put my list there. And then in the values connection too, I encourage when you fill out your profile to list our values there
oh yeah,
in our bios. So we just start with what our values are, and it's right there. So you don't have to ever lose them.
great. That is great.
But when you find it, I encourage you to go in and do that.
Okay, I will do that. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's exciting to hear all the things that you're wanting to work on. And I appreciate the idea that it came from when you were at conflict with Facebook. This idea like,
Yeah.
okay, how else can I spend my time? What are these other things that'll fulfill me and and feel good? And that personal growth became the answer. And then all these other ideas came from that.
Yeah.
That's how
And
it
I
leads
think,
to fulfillment and happiness. So
yeah, and I think part of how I got so hooked is that I left my job uh, at the beginning of the pandemic, in actually March, April, May, June, 3 months into the pandemic, because I was afraid to bring it home because my mother was here. And in June of 2020, I retired, and yet I still had full-time stuff here at the house going on because my mom was in the process of dying. And uh, I think I turned to Facebook as an escape.
mm,
And it was, there's always such interesting and philosophical, and you can feel like you're learning something and staying in touch, staying connected.
right.
And yet it's an escape.
Right. It's a
And
clickbait. And then there's all that clickbait stuff too.
yeah,
So they're trying
yeah.
to catch your attention with the algorithms,
And they're
everything.
trying to get you to buy.
Ugh,
Uh,
so much.
and Amazon has beautiful things. Oh dear, I can't answer this one either. Message. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, uh, there's some incredible things for sale, but I have long time ago dedicated myself to not buying on Facebook because they already have so much money.
Right. I
They make
understand.
they make money on everything you sell.
It
I
is so
mean, you buy.
true. I
Yeah,
know. And what you said was, I really appreciate how you framed that as well. You realized that Facebook was an escape. And that
yeah,
gets to that question of, is it actually a value that we're at conflict here? Is it
right.
actually a value? Escapism isn't necessarily, I don't, is it one of your values? I don't think so.
No,
No. I mean, I do think
no,
we all need a break, and certainly for me, anything sustainability is taking a break. But escapism is a little bit different, and I can still use it. But 30 minutes a day is a good way to monitor that when that's what I meant. Like when it gets too far tipped over, you can then course correct because you're
right,
like, oh, it's actually, I'm not at conflict with my values. I'm actually escaping. My values are clear. It's not conflict, it's actually something else, and I will address the something else rather than think my values are bumping up against each other. So it takes a bit of thinking or reframing what's actually going on.
interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's a different way to look at it
Yeah,
because it's not
yeah.
always, you know.
Escaping always seems to me more like something that doesn't allow you to grow. It's like an addiction.
Yes.
You can be addicted to escaping.
Yeah, it's kind of it doesn't lead to anywhere else. It's kind of a dead end in and of itself.
Right. And like a lot of people are addicted to television
Mhm.
or cigarettes or alcohol, I think to escape is addictive.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And sometimes it's normal to do that. Like sometimes we need to do it. It's just when it gets too much and takes too much of our time, and you realize it's at the expense of your personal growth, or
Yeah.
it's at the expense of connection for me.
Yeah.
Then it needs to, for me, to I can live more in alignment with my values, I need to course correct. And my values help me get there.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to focus on connection more. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a different approach to solving our day-to-day problems and solving our what's not working in our lives, yet it's a sound one because it's centered within yourself.
Yeah.
You get to see the path forward. I call the core values kind of your 24/7 advisory board, right? So they could kind of
Yeah.
tell you what's going on. It's your pocket advisory board, something it's open all day, all night. And because each of the values gives you a point of view on what you're thinking about. So values, what do you think about this Facebook time? Well, it's not really in alignment with personal growth. Well, so each of them get to tell you what what value what the value says about it. They all have an opinion.
I guess they are the advisory board after all.
I mean, what a good advisory board. They're free, they're open
Yeah,
24/7.
that's right.
You
And they
chose
be
them yourself. You still have your own sovereignty. You don't have to give up any percentages.
yeah,
They're an excellent, they don't have to, they're an excellent place to go to help navigate life. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And yeah, navigating is what it is.
it's truly a navigation.
Yeah.
I so appreciate your insight and willingness to have this conversation. I love having it with you. You have
Well,
such
I
grace in how you
really
do it.
admire that you have created this. This is like a new way to uncover your own, guidance, your own guide to how to get there, wherever that is, wherever it is you're going.
Right. It
Yeah.
helps tell you, yeah, it's the how we get there more than anything. It's the where we're going and how to get there
Yeah.
is how I see it. But you have a beautiful grace to how you show up in your life and ask the questions. And I personally adore you and just enjoy these conversations because they really resonate with me and show it in action. That's what these 11 living our values sessions are. How does this look in life? How do we do this
Yeah.
every day? How is it in action? How do we live our values every day? You know,
Nice. Yeah.
and and and
Really.
and live with more love in the world because that's what we really need
Yeah.
to heal. Yeah. Any final thoughts or anything you want to ask or share? It's almost noon. I can't believe it. We had a good conversation for,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's 4 minutes here.
Yeah.
Well, I I like to be able to, it's just you and I here, so I can say we met with 12 steps. And I like to be able to catch myself in an addiction
Mm,
and find myself recovering from it. And I would say I turn to Facebook all the time when I'm stressed out, when I'm just facing having to make a decision. I'll just go to Facebook and I'll get lost. And I noticed I was doing this assignment for being a volunteer at the library. It's a huge assignment. And I would turn to my phone to get a piece of information out of the phone. And all of a sudden, I'd slip over into Facebook. And I started being like, wait a second, you just got lost in your addiction. And that's been sort of like this part of now in this, I'm in the midst of putting myself in challenging places where I can grow. And I think Toastmasters is challenging me in the way that I lose track of what I'm thinking in front of people. And so I'm turning to Toastmasters as a way to clear that up. And it's been a kind of um, a value, I think. A value is to challenge my character in ways that I haven't been able to before. And these are things I would like to be skilled at.
right. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. It seems
Yeah.
like that's part of your personal growth value.
Yeah. Personal growth. That's where it belongs. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Challenging.
yeah, that statement can go underneath the definition of personal growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And beautifully said. I mean, that honesty of when we're doing something that isn't serving our highest good is so powerful. And in all fairness to you, the apps are done, the phone and the apps are created to keep you on there.
Yeah.
The movie The Social Dilemma, have you seen it? I think you did see it, the
I did
documentary,
see
right?
it.
So even
Yeah.
the people that are the CEOs of these apps and know that that's the purpose of them are get caught in the same trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is they
And
know
they,
how to get to our brain. They know they know your behavior before you do. So
yeah. And they criticize themselves, but yet they increase their ability to do what they do.
right, and they don't let their children have phones till they're 13, till they're much older. So they're selling it for everybody else, but
Yeah.
for their own. And that's why I know a lot of people who have their phones in black and white. I've gone through phases of that too, because the color definitely draws us to our phones more. So
Mm,
going to black and white, grayscale helps keep us less, into the phone.
mm,
And also I've taken Facebook off my phone for a while, so that if I want to go on, I have to actually go on to it through my computer or consciously go in.
mm. Wow, that would be really different for me.
Yeah, right. And I'm not saying you have to
If,
do that, but when I have
no,
those issues, that's what I've had to do to give it a good pause
mm,
and break my compulsive habit.
yeah.
So, because I can promise myself all day long, but I have to do something to kind of shake it up a little bit.
Well, I got to shake it up a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure I'll do that, but I probably should. I'll
I
give
mean,
it a
I
little
haven't gotten rid of
time.
Amazon, so I hear you. There are certain things we can do. It's not the last thing I want to say as we end. It's not about being perfect here. It's not about doing everything with perfection. It's about navigating. It's about course correcting. It's not about a straight line, rigidity, narrow, good or bad. And that is super important in the work and how we talk about it here.
Navigate and course correct. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's
All
noon.
right.
It's time that we say sign off and say goodbye. And thank you so much for having this conversation.
Well, thank you too, Amy. I'm so glad you called me to say it. And will you join me? It was perfect.
Love it.
Love it too. All right. Have a good day.
All right.
And we'll talk about this
We'll
other
talk
part.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. Between
Fantastic.
1 and 1:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.